The most conservative I've ever seen Cam Newton dressed in my entire life. Barely recognized him. All right, what is going to be the key to this matchup, Cris, Canty?
Well, for me, it's going to be about Matt Ryan being able to make those throws outside of the numbers. Last week, Carolina Panthers played against a quarterback that couldn't do that consistently, throwing the ball down the field outside of the numbers. The Panthers defensively want to be a single high team. They're going to drop an extra defender down in the box to slow down that running game. That's why they have an NFL best 21-game streak of holding opposing team, not allowing an opposing rusher to have over 100 yards. So that's what that defense is going to do. That's what Ron Rivera's guys, that's their identity. So what Matt Ryan is going to have to do, he's going to have to be good at being able to get the ball to Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu, take advantage of that young secondary of the Carolina Panthers. Now, on the flip side of it, when you look at what Cam Newton is going to have to do, they've got a patchwork offensive line. Darrell Williams, their other starting tackle, is out now. So now they're down both of their starting tackles based on their preseason depth chart. So it's a patchwork group. They're going to have to rely on him to be more of a runner on the offensive side of the ball, because I don't think that group can hold up in pass protection. In 14 career games against the Falcons, Cam Newton's been sacked 22 times, 18 touchdowns to 15 picks.
To me, this is a game of who can deal with it. It's a lot of information. To me, this is a game of who can deal with their injuries the best. Because both of these teams, as you alluded to on the Panthers side, you talked about they lost their left tackle before the season. They lost their right tackle during week 1. They lost their tight end, Greg Olsen, during week 1, who's Cam's favorite target. And then you have the Falcons, who during week 1 lost speed on their speedy defense. They lost their strong safety, Deion Jones, and Keanu Neal. They lost their strong safety and middle linebacker, I should say, in week 1. And so what you're going to have is, like, I know the Panthers are going to say, let's try to get the ball, to Christian McCaffrey and see if their backup middle linebacker, who's, Cris, you were telling me, is an Ivy Leaguer. I'm not familiar with the guy.
Yes.
Foyeside Oluokun, who's going to step in.
Pick from Yale.
That's a good effort, by the way.
I'm doing my best. I try to get people's name right. So, so if he can, how they can tackle Christian McCaffrey in space, and whether or not the Panthers receivers, who they've spent multiple high-round picks on year after year, can attack a weaker Atlanta secondary. And on the flip side, the story for Atlanta until further notice is going to be, at least in my eyes, how good are they in the red zone? That was their problem last year. We know that's why they lost week 1. They said all offseason they were working on it. We didn't see it in week 1. Maybe week 1 was an aberration. Philadelphia just has their number. But I want to see how Atlanta does once they get inside the 20. I don't doubt they'll be able to move the ball to the red zone. Do they get 7 once they get in the red zone? They were 1 for 5 in 5 red zone opportunities against Philadelphia, only coming away with 10 total points.
Yeah, I think they made a huge mistake by trying to go for it to open the game. You have the opening drive of the season. You drive all the way down the field. You get inside the 5-yard line, and you decide to go for it on 4th down, where the momentum of it was he was coaching like this is his first game coaching. DQ, Dan Quinn, that's what they call him. He should know better. He should get them 3 points, because that's still momentum for your team. So they turn it over there on downs. They get the ball back. They go right back down inside the 5-yard line. So for me, you're talking about red zone offense. I'm talking about the relationship between Steve Sarkisian, the offensive coordinator, and Matty Ice and Julio Jones. All right? They got to get Julio Jones the ball in the red zone. It's impossible, Jenna. It's impossible to complete a pass to Julio Jones when he's sitting on the sideline.
Yeah.
So you actually do the defense a favor by taking him off the field. Randy Moss used to have a fit when they used to take him off the field. I used to tell you guys, listen, just have him stand out there.
He can get a breather just
I said, just let him stand out there. Don't take it off. Don't go no 3 tight ends, 4 tight ends. What advantage? It's advantage to the defense, because one of the most feared weapons is on the sideline. So that relationship becomes important. For Cam Newton, it's about 3rd down conversions. It's one of those kind of games. I don't care how many times they throw. I don't care how many times he's run. Cam's going to have to be able to try to win this with that patched-up offensive line and that group that he has. So he's going to have to – it's going to be a Cam Newton game when they travel to Atlanta this weekend.
Is this going to be a bigger running game, a bigger workload, at least that in that direction for Cam Newton without his favorite target, Greg Olsen, out there?
Well, yeah, that's why I think Cam Newton is going to have to be a big part of that running game. They've got to find a way to shorten the game just because they're shorthanded along the offensive line.
You cannot back him up with those backup linemen.
But that's exactly what I was about to say, CC. Those offensive linemen are better going forward than they are going backwards in pass protection. So that's why I think this is another game where Cam Newton ends up being the Panthers' leading rusher. But looking at the flip side with the Atlanta Falcons, they got to find a way to win this game. They can't afford to go down and start 0-2 on the season, especially with 2 NFC losses. This is a team that has championship aspirations, and we know that if you start the season 0-2, you got around a 10% chance of making the postseason. So it has been done before, but that's not how Dan Quinn wants to start this season, especially knowing how last season ended. So they're going to have a little more urgency going back to their place, having this game against a division rival. They got to get this win. They need it more than the Carolina Panthers.
And Julio Jones has historically dominated this team. Julio, in the last 3 years, going into this year, 6 games played, averages 140 yards receiving a game. He has a 300-yard game against this team. He's got a 170 against this team. Last year, final week of the year, he had 80. The time before, he had 120. But to speak to the red zone stuff, Julio Jones, 6 games, averaging 140, had a 300-yard game. 2 total touchdowns in that stretch. And that has been red zone or not red zone for some reason. That is the only part of his football resume that is not top of the league level production since he came into the league. The touchdown scored. As far as the Panthers and their offense, quickly here, we talked about the Cowboys' lack of big plays when they played the Panthers. Didn't have a single play over 20 yards. Panthers only had 1. They had 1 Cam Newton run that was greater than 20 yards. They didn't have a single pass play greater than 20 yards. Nobody else ran for greater than 20 yards. I know Atlanta's going to have some explosive plays against that Panthers secondary. Can Carolina have just a few big plays to try to even that score a bit?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.